Hi, I'm Donna Ray.
And I'm Al Wadley.
Welcome to our podcast, Feldenkrais for Life.
In each episode, we will discuss ideas and experiences pertaining to the Feldenkrais method.
You're going to learn skills that will move pain to comfort, anxiety to ease, and we'll explore learning and how to spark creativity.
To learn more about Donna, visit her site at donnaray.com.
To find Al Wadley, go to achievingexcellence.com.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, Al.
How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good. We got an exciting topic today. We're going to talk about the mind and the brain.
It is an exciting topic, and it's something that Dr. Feldenkrais loved to talk about. And as far as I know, all neuroscientists are interested in this topic because of the notion of neuroplasticity.
Yes. And you have a quote from Moshe that you're going to read to us, right?
That's right. In 1981, Dr. Feldenkrais said, "The mind gradually develops and begins to program the functioning of the brain. My way of looking at the mind and body involves a subtle method of rewiring the structure of the entire human being to be functionally well integrated, which means being able to do what the individual wants." He went on to say, "The neural substrate, the neuronal connections in the brain, organizes itself." Now, some people say that Dr. Feldenkrais was one of the very first neuroplasticians.
And I would agree with that. That's a very progressive view, especially for 1981. And he understood this. He had this view long before that, even in his earlier writings and in his Alexandrian eye lessons. You can hear him talk about these ideas, about the brain can be rewired by using the mind, using awareness to change how the brain functions. So these were pretty bold ideas back in the day, because there was a time really back just 50, 70 years ago where scientists were not in agreement about this. Well, they're still not in agreement, but majority of them believed that, the brain functioned, the mind was the result of the functioning of the brain, and it was pretty much a one-way street. You couldn't reflect back on the brain and use the mind to influence it. There's really, since 2000s, the viewpoint started to change with the advent of functional magnetic resonant imaging. We could actually start to see that what you think about affects how the brain functions. Feldenkrais understood this long ago, but science is finally catching up with that. There's a strongly held belief, though, that the mind couldn't reflect back on the brain to influence it. That was true in the 30s, but also true in the 50s, and even in the 70s.
Dr. Feldenkrais was talking about this in the 30s, when it really wasn't a pervasive idea. So now we have books devoted to the topic. Dr. Dan Siegel wrote a book called The Mind. And in that book, he says we should really think about the mind as being a verb, not a thing, not a noun, because it's forever changing. So it's emerging, it's developing throughout our entire lifespan. And it's not just inside of us, it's in between us. So all the relationships that we have are affecting us, our minds, and Dr. Feldenkrais referred to that as self-image. So how we think about ourselves, what we're capable of doing, is an interactive process over time.
Yes, it is. And we can learn to use our mind to influence ourselves. I know Dan Siegel talks a lot about that. Jeffrey Schwartz, in his book, The Mind and the Brain, discusses this also in depth, as using mindfulness as a way to deal with OCD, very intense kind of personal issue that people have. And Feldenkrais, of course, knew this, and he applies it all the time in awareness through movement and in functional integration.
That's right. And so if we think about the mind as an interactive developing process in us and in between us, we can pay attention to new emerging factors, and we can see that the information and what Dr. Siegel says, the energy flow, is constantly sculpting us. I mean, it's changing us. There's nothing fixed about the mind. Now, you could say that's not entirely true because the way that people grew up pertains to how the mind has developed. But, we even know that when you change your current perspective, for example, with mindfulness, one of the goals, and actually one of the things that's very possible that's been studied, is that you can become more forgiving. You can actually become more grateful and express that to other people. And the more that we do that, the orientation toward ourselves and to others changes. It becomes, I call it softer, more gentle, more kind. And the kindness is readily available. And that extends back in time and forward in time. So when you develop this orientation in yourself, when you look back on your family of origin, for example, it's easier to see in many cases that parents, caregivers were doing the best they could at that time. And we feel less victimized even by our family of origins. Instead, we look at what we've learned and what we can take with us and bring forward in this kind, loving way.
It's interesting you talk about the development, in our family systems. And I think that has a big influence on how people perceive their mind and perceive their brain, perceive themselves, and how can they influence themselves or not. Some people are very reactive. They kind of go through life and things happen to them, and they don't feel like they have a lot of control over their thoughts, over their mind, and that it just happens to them. But it's possible for people like that to learn to be able to sense themselves and to be able to become aware of their thinking, become aware of their mind, and begin to use it. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about our work, especially the awareness through movement, really guides people into that kind of experience of becoming aware of themselves, sensing themselves, and using their mind, using their thinking to change the way their brain and their body function.
The process of awareness through movement includes that so beautifully, as you're saying. We learn how to be gentle with ourselves with the movements instead of looking for difficulties or feeling frustrated or finding the end of a movement where the pain is often found. We move slowly and gently, and we sensitize ourselves both to ourselves and to the movements. And that process I see as a self-loving process. The idea of practicing self-kindness becomes an active action, a practice.
It is a practice. I often describe to my students, you're learning to take care of yourself. And this is an important sub-theme in these classes, that you learn to sense yourself, you learn to feel what feels good, and make better decisions to move yourself forward in your life in a really comfortable way. I'm wondering, Donna, if you have maybe a brief awareness through movement snippet you could share with us that would kind of demonstrate this experience.
Yeah, let's do something. Place your hands on your face. Your left hand on the left side of your face, your right hand on the right side of your face, and sense your face with your hands. And notice your hands sensing your face. And notice your breathing at the same time. Reduce the pressure and the effort in your fingers and your hands. Rest your shoulders a little bit more. Sense your face, your head, your neck, your spine, all the way down to your pelvis. And now slowly remove your hands from your face and place them on your thighs. And I know some of you are standing, some of you are sitting, but in any case, touch your thighs and do a movement of sliding your hands very gently towards your knees and towards your hips. So if you're standing, you may have to bend forward a little bit, and sitting, same. You can round your back, look down a little bit as your hands slide toward your knees. And then lift your head and lengthen your spine, and your hands slide towards your hips. In fact, the movement of your whole torso moves your hands towards your knees and then toward your hips. Now continue that movement and sense the warmth of your hands on your thighs. Rest your fingers, your hands, your arms, and your shoulders as you continue. And notice your breathing. Do you breathe out or do you breathe in as your hands slide towards your knees? And you needn't worry about doing anything incorrectly. You just follow the directions, be gentle with yourself, and slowly come back and rest for a moment. Notice your breathing. Sense your whole self. And now bring your hands back to your face. Your right hand on the right side of your face, your left hand on the left side of your face. And notice, are you touching your face more gently now? Sense your face responding to your touch. Sense your breathing. And when you're ready, slowly rest your hands once again on your thighs if you're sitting, or just down along your sides if you're standing. And notice the sense of yourself that you've created in just a few moments. What are you noticing, Al?
Well, my face feels much more relaxed, and my fingertips feel much more alive. And my thighs, which I usually don't sense very much in my daily activity, have a brighter sensation to them. It's interesting, after sliding my hands on my thighs, bringing them back to my face, my fingertips felt very clear to my face and to my forehead. I had my eyes kind of cupped over my glasses. And so the fingertips were resting on my forehead. So really interesting and vibrant sensations.
Yeah, and I was doing it as I was speaking, and I feel more present, calmer. My breathing is more relaxed. I can hear the difference in my voice. We can shift our state very quickly. And the shift of state is a practice. So we can bring ourselves from frustration to calmness. We can become patient by calming ourselves down, more able to listen to other people. We are able to slow our thoughts down and to shift toward thoughts that we find amusing, entertaining, filled with appreciation.
That's a beautiful example of your mind guiding my mind and our listeners' minds. So the verb of, I guess, maybe is minding.
Yeah, minding. We're minding ourselves.
We're minding ourselves. And so it's a very good example of that. And I was kind of imagining also, as you were guiding me through that, was what's happening inside myself. If I could see the activity in my brain as you guided my attention to my hands and my face, that part of my neurology would be really activated. And then to my thighs, which are usually underactivated, would have become more prominent. Then back to the face, that all these neural pathways associated with the sensing and the feeling and the movements are really alive. And it continues. So we did that, 2, 3, 4 minutes ago, and still the sensations are still very vibrant and very alive. Those connections we're making are really, they're genuine and they're vital. It's beautiful.
And the more we practice, the more familiar we become with state shifting and the more capable we are of doing that. It becomes a skill that's readily available. And that reduces the reactivity that you were mentioning earlier. So we become more responsive to ourselves and to other people. And I want to mention that, Dr. Feldenkrais was well aware of the fact that in the sensory motor cortex, our hands and our face, our mouth, the eyes, are very largely represented. So we have this mental mind map, so to speak. And those parts of ourselves are hugely active because we use them all the time, and we use our hands in relationship to our eyes. So if you want to create a quick change, a dramatic shift, using your eyes, your hands, your face, and even your mouth is one of the fastest ways to do that.
Also mentioned that the thighs in the motor cortex and the sensory motor cortex are underrepresented. They're very kind of thin and spindly legs, is the way it appears. So by bringing such rich sensory part of ourselves, like the hands, to the thighs, we can bring them more into our awareness, become more a clearer part of our self-image. And we have these parts of ourselves: the hands, the face, the eyes, the lips. There's more nerve endings there, and they also serve multiple functions. And because of that, they have a larger representation in the cortices like that.
And if you look at the evolution of human beings and look at other species, we know that touching your face actually is connected to suckling and eating. So if you look at less differentiated animals, if you touch their face, you know that you're activating food, the intake of food. So even as babies, the suckling movement is a full body movement. It's not just the mouth and the lips. The whole face of the child or the baby, the infant, is activated. Their hands are close to their face. So we have less differentiation at earlier stages in our lives.
I'm going to go home and touch my dog's face.
Well, I have 2 dogs, and when I touch one of my dog's face, he immediately starts moving his mouth tremendously. He has incredible sensory mandibular expression. So it's very funny. The other one doesn't do it.
How funny.
But the older one, he's about 5 now, and I have 2 golden retrievers. And the other one, she's almost a year old, and she just doesn't respond that way.
Another example, these are animals that are considered less sophisticated in their development, but still they develop in such different ways from each other. They develop different personalities, different characteristics, different abilities. And just like humans do, this mammalian phenomena of development.
I was mentioning to you the other day, this book that I'm reading, it's The Hand by Frank Wilson. And in that book, an experiment's mentioned, and 2 people are given tasks to learn: playing the piano and juggling. And one of them excels at juggling and the other excels at the piano. So interventions were made to try to speed up the learning of juggling and the one that was better at the piano, and vice versa. And no matter what was done, the one that juggled better, faster, continued to excel, and the one that played the piano well excelled. They couldn't even out the skill in those 2 people.
I wonder if it has to do with the use of the eyes. Because the eyes in those movements are really different.
That's so
Did they
true.
look at that? I'd be really curious to know.
Well, they do discuss the eye movements and how you see the ball and how your peripheral vision is working. So there's a lot of detail to this. So, that could be. And I think we have propensities. Some people call them gifts, or we have trends. And it doesn't mean we can't learn all kinds of things, but some people are really better at certain tasks than others immediately.
That's right. Yeah, we have those early developmental propensities to have certain skills. And the use of the eyes, use of the hands are all very clear. And they take us in different pathways. There's certain people who are really good at working with very fine detail kinds of movements, like jewelers, and other people who are much better at doing large chunk and better organizing it at a higher level of activity. So it's really interesting how that takes place.
Yeah. And I think that just going out there and experiencing a lot of different kinds of interesting, fun tasks is really good for us. So if you want to influence your mind, build confidence, remain playful, do some tasks that, you don't ordinarily do. I see some excitement in your face, Al.
Do Feldenkrais lessons.
Feldenkrais lessons are fantastic for this.
Do Feldenkrais lessons because they have all of those components you just listed. Mm-hmm. Novel experiences, you engage your mind in a unique way, you sense yourself in a unique way, and you'll learn, you'll improve yourself. And guess what? Those other things you do in life, your piano playing and your juggling, also improve.
And you can transfer the principles of the Feldenkrais method to other situations. So, for example, my husband and I were playing ping pong the other day, and I just switched to my left hand. I'm a right-hander, but I switched to my left hand and I continued playing. I didn't say anything. And then he said, "When did you become a lefty?" And I said, "I just decided to switch the paddle over." It was pretty easy for me, actually.
That's amazing.
I believe it's because of the Feldenkrais method, because we use our hands equally when we're practicing functional integration with other people, when we're putting our hands on folks, and also in awareness through movement, we work with both sides. We don't focus on the dominant hand.
So true. So true.
So it was fun to do that. And then I went back to the right hand and just switching off and also changing legs. So we tend to lunge forward with one foot, change it up, lunge with the other one. So I was just playing around, creating novel experiences while I was playing ping pong, which is something that I like to do. It's fun. And, I do it fairly often. So the task became even more interesting to me by changing it up like that.
Very cool. Very cool. And we have ways that our listeners can find novel experiences on our websites. Your website, donnaray.com. You have some audio product to download and some nice articles to read. And my website, achievingexcellence.com, have a large selection of audio and video to peruse through and purchase and download. And you can make this exploration on your own in the comfort of your own home.
That's right. Thanks for listening, and send us any questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hi, I'm Donna Ray.
And I'm Al Wadley.
Welcome to our podcast, Feldenkrais for Life.
In each episode, we will discuss ideas and experiences pertaining to the Feldenkrais method.
You're going to learn skills that will move pain to comfort, anxiety to ease, and we'll explore learning and how to spark creativity.
To learn more about Donna, visit her site at donnaray.com.
To find Al Wadley, go to achievingexcellence.com.